Okay, good evening and welcome to Phil Goes Deep. Tonight's show, I'm very pleased to say, is I've got a very special guest. Tonight's show is about CSDM and where CSDM meets GRC. So we will be working in Quebec, and the guest that I've got tonight is a qualified or officially a master. He is somebody that I've been in touch with for just over a year, and actually we're celebrating a year of the channel tonight, so it's actually very timely that this man has agreed to join me, and we will be talking a bit more in that. So I apologise for the slight delay. I was actually talking with him about beer just before just before the show, so apologies if you've been waiting, and I'm just waiting for him to appear back on camera, and he's here.
Okay. Yeah.
You're not there yet. Hold on a second, sorry, because you were off camera and now you're on camera, but I've not brought you in yet. So let me bring you
Of
in,
course.
and then
We'll
you
do.
can introduce yourself. So excellent, Ben Forrest. Thanks for joining me tonight. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, everybody. My name is Ben. I'm one of the folks around at ServiceNow, at the mothership, as it were, that likes to do a little thing we call training. I find it's less training, more facilitating, more growing the whole space. But technically, my title is Master Technical Trainer, and I try to bring a little bit of a flair and some fun to everything from GRC and SecOps to HR, CSM, application builder. Trying to make it fun. So,
And hopefully we'll be having some fun tonight. I know you've got some sound effects. You've got a really cool background. That is not a virtual background, right?
no, it's not. And I took the pandemic home improvement call to heart. I was like, if I'm going to be teaching virtually all the time instead of only half time, we need to go full on. We need to go full on cray cray. So we did the whole thing and just like transform the space and really tried to, like I said, if I can fool your kids who are also doing online school at home into thinking that you're goofing off at work and just watching YouTube, then I've done my job.
And are those kegs full behind you, Ben? Is that what's going on there?
Oh, so if you ever sit in on one of my classes, we can sit and chat about this at maybe one of the breaks. But that's actually we're in the loft space above my kitchen, and that's where I've been storing my brew kit here. So you'll see that over on the right hand side, there's two tanks that I use as fermenters that have been converted from kegs, and then over on the right there is a brew kettle and a mash tun. Off camera, we've got a couple more fermentation vessels, and then a brewery controller and some other fancy schmancy IoT gizmos that we can hook up to ServiceNow and do some brewing. But yeah, I started brewing as well, technically as a kid. Like we figured out at 19 that that was the way in, without having to get a fake ID in the States to be able to consume some beer legally. You had to brew it yourself because that's legal at 18 in the States, and then you can drink anything you want at home. So as long as you drink responsibly, guys. Just saying.
Well, drink responsibly, 100% behind you with that one. And how does it taste?
Um, I'm a little partial, but I think it tastes pretty good. Like I said, I won't say how long exactly because that'll let you do the math on how old I am. But been at it for a while, and I'm used to collect yeast samples from various places, including Europe. So my specialty is Belgian styles, and I'm particularly fond of saisons and an American farmhouse take on that classic style. So I think they taste awesome.
And in terms of hops, right? My friends, a few of my friends are into their kind of craft ales, and I like a craft ale, but I don't know my hops from my hops, right? So, Citra is a hop that I know, but can you say anything about hops?
Yeah,
That,
yeah. Well, so like hops are great because they're really interesting and they're one of those things where it's like turning up and down color sliders on an old school TV or messing with the video settings because you can change characteristics of the beer with the hops, right? There's the like Citra is got kind of it packs a punch on both categories of what we're looking for in a hop, because it's like it's got the what we call the beta acids that gives it the kind of aroma and the kind of full fruity characteristics, the little spiciness, and then there's the alpha oils, which give you the bitter, right? And certain hops are like a real like paste, like a punch to the face in terms of like that kind of bitterness. And then there's what we call noble hops, which are kind of like the German go-tos, which are lower in both categories, but have a different kind of complexity and style. It's I don't know. I get really interested and we could nerd about this like a lot in terms of different categories, different styles, all the different little ways that you can tweak a beer to give it different character, and it's just endlessly fascinating. I just love it.
Well, I've learned a little bit there about hops. So we've taken a little sidetrack, and I'm sure we'll do a few more of those little sidetracks as well. Tonight,
so Raph says your volume is a little low, so I don't know if
that's exactly what I was going to say. I've just turned my volume up, so Raph is shouting out in the chat that my volume's low. That might be because you've got all the audio equipment, Ben, and you like if I was just on my own doing this, then maybe it wouldn't be so noticeable. But actually, that's a good shout. I'll shout to Adil as well. I've got the Rangoon crew tuning in on the chat. So shout to Adil and Raf. Raf, how's the volume now? Is that any better? Because I've been fiddling with the mixer here. I've tried to just tune Ben down slightly just to bring myself up. So just let me know. It sounds quite good in my ears. But I think people think that I like the sound of my own voice, so I'm not sure I can be a fair judge. Let me know, Raf. Yeah, sounds better, thank you. So Ben, CSDM, Quebec, and GRC. That's the three things we're playing with tonight. CSDM stands
for a hard right turn there. Sorry, from hops to CSDM. Yeah, I was saying the hard right turn there. We'll try and bring it back.
We'll bring it back to the beer later, but we've got to try and stay on topic a little bit, and I just don't know enough about hops to wax lyrical with you on it. So CSDM stands for Common Services Data Model. Is it just the Cmdb rebranded, or what is CSDM, and what does that actually mean? What does it mean for the ServiceNow landscape, for anyone that's already customers that have already got ServiceNow? They've got a Cmdb, and now CSDM's coming along. What can you tell us about CSDM?
So, first and foremost, I definitely want to dispel any rumors. Even though it kind of goes hand in hand with Cmdb, you'll often hear them kind of talked about broadly together, sort of like peanut butter and jelly. But there's a slight difference, and it kind of goes back. I need to tell a little bit of a quick story about kind of the genesis of this. And if you read the white paper, I believe it's described in there too. Scott Lem, kind of the guy that was one of the people really involved with kind of pushing this notion forward and really getting ServiceNow, everybody internally, to kind of get aligned on this. A couple years back, there was sort of this realization that we have all of these major process areas and applications being built on the platform, and folks are starting to reinvent the wheel, right? You get to a certain size and scale like we've done, and people are like, well, I don't see anything for it in the ITSM relevant tables, or I'm doing HR stuff. And what it comes down to is that we needed a way to be able to look at these data structures, these information structures, if you will, from different perspectives and standardize it. Hence the common services. So what it is it's more about looking at different data models in the platform, and mostly centering on foundational data and CIs and services and assets, to kind of be that core like orbit that things like, well, specifically services orbit around. So one of the examples I'll sometimes talk about, is sort of like being able to take a three-dimensional shape like this. Well, we'll just call it a cube, right? And when I turn it to the camera, let's try and do it this way. My camera. You know what? Actually, let me do this so that I can properly we'll mirror here. Hey, there we go. Like, so let's take this cube here. We'll call it a cube, but on one face it looks one way, and then we turn it another way, it looks another way, and when we turn it this way, it looks another way, and then we get some perspective from multiple sources, right? For multiple viewpoints. And I like to kind of make that analogy when it comes to looking at the CMDB and the asset tables and the core company tables and all the things that need to be shared and common amongst services, so we're not constantly replicating the same information across different places in the platform. So it's basically, if you're looking at it from a security angle, you can look at the CMDB and these other tables connected through this notion of the CSDM one way. If you're coming at it from HR, there's going to be a lot of overlap, and a couple of maybe additional adds, in terms of relationships and models and such. So it's really about perspective is kind of how I like to term it.
Yeah, and
what I like to make that easy. Go ahead.
Yeah, what I like about the CSDM diagram that I keep seeing, and I think it's the thing that brings it all together. It's got the orange box at the top, and it's put in these classes. So the CMDB is still the CMDB. We're not really changing the CMDB, but we've got some new stuff in there. Things like business application, for example, which is a key one that I've noticed. And it also brings in that foundational data. So you see location, company, department. I think even group is showing up in there. So all of that foundational data starts to kind of be brought together and be considered, because it's not a class of the CMDB, but it's part of the common services data model. So for me, seeing those things kind of brought into the picture, I think made me go, okay, that makes a lot of sense now. But is there anything that really changes it maybe from a user standpoint, or somebody that's implementing something on ServiceNow that say, well, hold on a minute, we've got CSDM now. Do I need to do anything differently, or can I get more bang for my buck out of the same? Like, what's the value of CSDM? I guess from an implementation perspective.
So I want to make sure that we clarify that even though in Quebec now there's you can go navigate to it in the platform and type in CSDM and find a bunch of modules related to this notion, but I want to dispel the notion that CSDM is a product or an application in itself, in so much as it's a practice, it's a way of thinking, and it's a way of agreeing amongst all the stakeholders that are using the ServiceNow platform in your environments on the rules of play, right? And just creating a set of definitions and relationships that we can all agree are, a business application or an application service or like a company, and right, and basically agreeing on those things. So it's not a product in so much as it's almost like it's a structure. It's an agreement on how we're going to view all the data that sits inside our environment.
Like a terms of reference.
It's going to change. Yeah. Over time, it should evolve, right? I'm going to use another analogy because I find analogies and those sorts of constructions helpful in framing the discussion. So you might have seen like the kind of famous, like there's a version of it here. Can we pop things in the YouTube chat? I can never remember doing this directly, but so if you...
We trying to share a link in there? Or?
Yeah, I just dropped a link in there. So you might have heard or seen this video where a comic book artist, is talking about unreasonable deadlines, right? And we use this analogy in project management sometimes, but I also find it useful from an implementation perspective in terms of recognizing how much data you need to put into the platform to make actionable choices, right? Or informed actions and choices. So what gets people really wrapped up when they look at the CSDM, and I was going to pull that link up here too. In fact, let me grab that one. When they look at the white paper that you're talking about, that diagram, which thank goodness we have the quick reference, as we call it. No offense to the white paper authors and such, but it's a lot like reading, sometimes stereo instructions, it feels like, especially if you're brand new, because it makes a lot of assumptions that you understand some of these elements. And if you're just coming to the platform, we need to kind of set some table stakes here. So let me put in Csdm so you guys can get the white paper also.
So it's quite possible then that one customer, their Csdm, they might have slightly different perspective on, the way that they use a business application and the way their business application relates to the relevant services underneath it. Now you've got a common kind of framework and a starting point in that definition that says this is what we think should be things in there, but it's okay for a customer to say, actually, for us, our Csdm is this, and it's like a terms of reference, but with a few extra classes in there and a few extra, like the Cmdb CI Apple table, that's still there, but that's like an application instance table, and the business application that runs is the thing that actually adds value to the customer, to the actual business itself. Or
so let's continue on like with some framework, some framing here on this idea, and make sure that we understand that we are defining the meaning and the usage of specific classes, both in the Cmdb, the asset tables, and in some of what we call the kind of the foundational tables like company and location and business process and such. And business capability. What we are also saying is that customers shouldn't get as hung up on, oh, do I need to have all of these things populated in order to start to get value? Because again, it's about the level of detail and resolution that you need to make a choice, to make an action. And if you get really hung up on like, well, I can't implement, X, Y, or Z in ServiceNow until I have all of this data, you'll go straight up into analysis paralysis and never get anything done. Now, there are some times when you absolutely, for regulatory reasons, like for a bank or a financial institution, they have that data and it's a matter of being able to populate it and put it in the right spots. But, we don't, tell the ambulance drivers to wait outside while we build the hospital first. If, you've got somebody that's bleeding to death out in the ambulance, we start to triage, we start to kind of make decisions about what data we're going to start with and then kind of continue to build. So we talk about it as a crawl, walk, run, and then fly, right? We want to do the full on, we're going to get out there and do the thing like.
Okay.
Right. Let's go get them, Csdm. So I don't know if you wanted to start driving it.
It sounds like a good time to get into it because, I think we might be in that
less theory, more practice. Let's do it.
We might be in that zone of kind of analysis paralysis, right? If we keep talking and not showing. Was the audio playing up there? I'm just going to switch us over to Zoom. I hope I'm just going to hide self view. I'm not sure what's going on the video, so apologies for anyone that's struggling with my.
I was going to say, like,
video right now. Let me just pop in and out.
Back in the day, before we had things like YouTube to do explanations, we had to read books and do all of these things on our own without anybody to help. Oh, hey, you've got your thing up here. Cool.
Zoom is. I don't know if my OBS is now playing up. Let me just switch it around. Apologies. There we go.
Oh yeah, it looks like OBS.
It crashed out. It wasn't happy.
Uh-oh.
There we go. It's okay. We are back. Right. We are sharing the browser.
Oh man, and I've got the derp face when I go and check the preview.
Got you to my left. Can you hear me? Yes, you're there.
Yeah. You're all good. You're all good.
Oh, I told you, didn't I, when we started? Apologies for any technical issues, and we tick that one off a bit later. Actually, you're better off up there, I think. So, you comfortable where you're sitting there, Ben? Happy with that?
Bye, guys. I'm on the back.
Excellent. So, Csdm. What I was thinking here is, from a GRC perspective, that's my, being selfish, that's my kind of area of focus. And you and I have done a video before on indicators in GRC. And I've actually linked that community video in the YouTube description. So anyone who's saying what's a GRC indicator, check out the video that me and Ben did with Eric Ferron from the community as well, the ServiceNow GRC community, and let's see about some of the challenges that I see for the CSDM. Does it solve this problem? And also in Quebec, we've got some updates to the query builder, and let's kind of look at some data right now. So if I go to business application, I'm not sure what I've got in here. If I go to under CSDM as well, you've got 4 concepts, right? Design, manage, sell, and consume. Is that the 4 areas?
Yeah, 4 quadrants, and not necessarily always in that order, but no. Sometimes we're already offering it, we just need to record, right? So I actually want to back up even before we get here, but this is a nice like little preview that you've got in terms of kind of bringing it all together. And I don't know if you have if I can throw it in the chat for you to pull up real quick, because we can get a nice visual. Let me see if I've got that.
Not sure how chat works when I'm sharing the screen, but let's try it. Let's find out.
All right, so let me put this in here.
Which chat? Are you putting in the YouTube chat, or are you putting in the Zoom chat?
I'm going to put it in the Zoom chat because I won't be able to share an actual file in... Oh, man. Can't do it from my computer in your Zoom. Okay, never mind.
Have I not given you permission? Apologies. Sorry, Ben.
No worries.
I don't know how to change that right now. Okay, so what is it with...
This is why we roll around and keep going. So we just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of talk about each of these quadrants, right? And if I think I can actually just give you a direct link to the white paper. That might actually, or the reference guide here. Oh yeah, there we go. Let me put that in the YouTube chat. That way you can just pull it up on screen here, because I think this is going to be useful for us to reference real fast. Because like you were saying, there's these 4 areas, and they are sort of like the 4 different perspectives or the 4 different drivers of some of this data. And there's a hidden one. There's a hidden one that we're going to talk about, like when it comes to GRC, because we're going to overlay on top of all of that data a GRC mentality. So I don't know if you got that.
I'm not seeing the link in the chat, so
let me put it in both the Zoom chat and in the YouTube chat.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it there, but I've no idea where your chat comes in when I'm sharing. You know, I'm not a Zoom native. I know you guys have been using... Here we go. Right, okay. You guys have been using Zoom for... I actually learned about Zoom not from lockdown quizzes, but from ServiceNow. So
we were using it before it was cool. No, I don't know. I actually was not. I was not initially a fan, but it's grown on me over the last couple of years.
You know what? I just agreed and proceed to the cookies there, and I shouldn't have done that. I should have checked. Even though I know what's there, you know. Okay, so I've gone to now. It's taken me to now learning LXP.
Because you had to log in. Try it now that you've logged in, right? Drop that.
Let me just.
You need to log in. Yeah, that's how this little guy works.
Let me try it in the other window just quickly, because I don't know what happens when I log in. So I'll just do this. It's not going to work, Ben. I'm sorry.
No worries. Okay.
I'm on a different profile here, so that I don't have access to all my stuff that I normally have access to in the workday. So.
Okay, it's okay. We're gonna pivot.
Okay.
All right. So if we're regardless of the color, like we look at these different quadrants, right? So if you think about it, there's the design, and this is sort of what services are we going to offer? How do we offer them? Who can consume them? And if I zoom up on what you're looking at here. How do we describe all of the things like a business process that we can all agree on, or how do we describe a business capability? So this is all the kind of management layer, or if you will, right, where we're kind of trying to figure out, hey, do we build this thing or do we buy it? Because that's a real struggle. It's a real problem from almost every size business, right? Like, do we buy Zoom, or do we license Zoom from Zoom, or do we just build our own in-house version of video chat, right? That's how we kind of think about that. And do we even have the capability? Do we have to go hire somebody to bring that capability in-house? What's the process for approving this? Or, so this is the business process kind of quadrant here. Like, what can we do? How do we do it? Should we do it? Should we not do it? And what are we actually, what do we have in-house, right? And there's a wild thing that happens in this quadrant where once you do the inventory of all the different like applications, and we'll call them business applications, all the different things that people are using to get work done, everything from, like maybe the G Suite apps to ServiceNow to Zoom to WebEx, you might have a bunch of overlap and or competing priorities, right? Like, because one manager really likes Zoom, the other one really likes WebEx, and they somehow both got, approval to get that licensing paid in their different respective business units or departments or even teams. And so you can have what we call application sprawl, and we don't know what we don't know that's out deployed in our environment getting work done, and we go, oops, right?
Shadow this is how IT as well, right? Shadow IT, yeah. Same kind of thing, but Shadow IT's like the decision to go and do that without checking with anyone, and all this stuff going on in the background, and that creates application sprawl. But they're the same problem, really.
I need to move too quick, and like I don't want to get hung up in the red tape or whatever, right? But you can also have application amnesty day, is something that I used to talk about. Like, let's all just like no fines, today, or you're not going to get in trouble. We just want to know what's there so we can, make some choices, because maybe we were wrong going with application A versus B, right? So that's the design stuff, and we get into some really heady stuff. Now, there's a really cool thing that we're not going to have time to talk about today called information object that I love.
I love it. Yep.
But that's going to have to be for another day, because that will take us down a crazy rabbit hole if we go too far. But that's where we stash information that doesn't fit any of the other categories, but we need to record it and reference it somehow, right?
So okay, let's just frame that then. So for me, when I see information object, from a privacy perspective, you see a lot of things here like card number, etc. Date of birth might be in here. You might be talking about some real personally identifiable information, sensitive information, right? And that's where I see that kind of information object helping us define the fact that this service, application, etc. is processing. It's got CRUD definitions when we map them, right? It says I'm creating, reading, updating, deleting that information object in this service layer in some way. And have you looked at the risk identification workflow within advanced risk in GRC, Ben?
I have, as a matter of fact, and I like where you're going with this. Because one of the things that you can use information object for, like if we go back to that notion of like the 4 colors, the quadrants, right? Information object gives you as many different crayon colors as you want, right? And we can bring that like a reference, right? Or we can abstract. Well, I don't know if this is an actual word, but we're going to abstractify like a concept. Like, let's say we're describing a process of taking credit card payments, right? If we want to be able to describe that process flow, well, we're not going to bring the actual credit card numbers in or configure them somewhere in the platform, but we want to be able to describe the fact that we are going to take this object, this thing called a credit card that we can all agree has these characteristics, and be able to talk about it. So this is like our vocabulary. This is our data vocab here, or like the amount of colors in your rainbow to be able to draw a picture for somebody. And create an actual meaningful description of the components of a service or a process, or a workflow, right? This is where we can abstractify those things. I'm going to keep using that for a minute.
But what I like is the information object, because that's how I originally saw it. It's not limited to that. So when I see things like backup files, export files, it's something maybe a little bit more tangible. and it's something that is, it's not about privacy as such. It's beyond that, but you can handle privacy here, and you can also handle the rest of your business flows, right? I've got some type of information, and that object of information is being managed in some way. And then when you see the application, the risk identification workflow, when you see information object getting mapped to policies, citations, risk statements, and then plug in that I've got a new business application that is processing these information objects, and it recommends to you that stuff. I mean, that's a massive game changer. That came out in version 11 of GRC, I believe. And actually, we were going to mention version 12 is now live on the store, so you can upgrade your GRC apps to version 12 now. And I don't know what's in there, but we're on version 12. We're on Quebec. We're on version 12 of all the GRC plugins that I've been able to upgrade. So we did take a side route there, but yes, when I said
okay, so since we're here, I want to add one little practical thing, and then we're going to move on. But like real quickly, so like you were talking about, it's not just the abstract notions. It's not just like the abstractifying things. You can create like actual tangible. We call them like sometimes you might hear them referred to in other information spaces as like a leaf node, right? Like we just need to be able to. We don't want to create a table somewhere to describe this stuff, but we want to be able to record it. And it's especially useful because information objects aren't technically considered CIs, but they are they look, smell, taste, and feel a lot like CIs, and they can mimic a lot of the characteristics, but it's technically not. So imagine a scenario where you've got like a telecom, right? And I don't know if it's like this in the UK, but in the States, there's what we call number portability, right? I can have a number with an area code and exchange, and like my number, Ben's number, and I can take that from place to place to place. So the telecom provider, if they've got service, they can't configure all of those phone numbers, or they can't create consumables based on those phone numbers. They don't own them, right? But they need to be able to refer to them and be able to take that item, store it somewhere in the platform without creating a wholesale new table like somewhere else. But it's not a CI, it's not necessarily an asset, but it's this descriptive thing, and we want to kind of keep all of those little guys all together so that we can go and reference them or refer back to them in some way. So it's another nice little place where you can stash practical data that's related to all the stuff that's in the Cmdb or the asset tables. I'm just going to leave that there, and we do a whole show on just information object, my friend.
Yeah, I think it's something we will need to come back to. It's just funny that when we talked about doing this show, where CSDM meets GRC, at that point I completely forgot about information objects, and that's probably the more poignant place where you've got the risk identification workflow. So completely overlooked that, but the risk identification workflow is new, and it's like the thing that customers really need, and it might be quite difficult to figure out how they should start to use that and where that fits in, because they probably don't quite have that process yet, or they don't have that data, so the risk identification engine isn't going to solve it just yet, but it's really there for the journey. So information object, super powerful. So maybe we kind of fast track and try and build. I don't know if we're going to actually build anything today, Ben. We're just doing a lot of talking, which is great. I like to get your perspective on this stuff. So where were you going next? Should we try and build something, or should we keep going through CSDM and try and bring it back?
Yeah. Let's try and add a little bit. We'll fill in some more of these colors here. So we talked about the blue quadrant, which is design. Then there's this notion of managed technical services, and this is where all our friends who are really good at the ITOM space, where they live, right? This is kind of one of those areas where it was a fundamental shift for a lot of folks to think, oh, other people get to use the Cmdb tables other than us in the ITOM space, right? And this is their corner of the world kind of carved out specifically, right? So this is where we can do things like service mapping, bring in, programmatically go and spider through, starting from an entry point, right, all the way down to the individual components that make up a particular service, and we can monitor it in real time, right? So this is the orange space that a lot more people will be familiar with if they've ever gone through and kind of explored some of the ITOM applications like service mapping or discovery and such. It's worth saying that you can also leverage things like event management and bring in data from other automated services like Qualys or Tenable or Splunk or all kinds of different places where the data resides, and we can start to bring it in and start to update things in these tables automatically because we don't want to do things manually. But I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here. Then we get into the green quadrant, which is the sell and consume, and this is tied really closely to both the orange and the blue, right? So when at the end of the day, if we talk about what is a service, what is a business service, it's just the thing that I am providing as a provider to somebody else who is consuming it as a consumer, and we exchange value in some way. For big tech companies where the product is free, you're the product, right? The value that is exchanged is the data that you're providing to them to go do something else with, right? To sell to advertisers and such.
Okay, so let's just put that into context and let's create a business service, because I like your definition there. So as a business service, for me as a consultant in the ServiceNow space, a business service might be product implementation or something like this. I mean, I don't frame it in that way normally. I'm trying to give it a nice name, or would it be GRC implementation, GRC project? How do you mean?
Classically, this would be the notion of like email or bond trading, like the old school demo data that's in the platform in the Cmdb now.
Not BlackBerry.
Oh man, I think RIM's still around. Like we don't want to give him too hard a time. But there's actually a thing that I want to talk about before we get to this. Now that we kind of have this service classification of business service, this is kind of the umbrella of like anything that we're providing as a service. So if we're offering services to folks, like actually doing the act of doing HR case management or doing security operations or providing telecom service or providing financial services, we define those at kind of the top end layer. Now here's where we get interesting, and this is where people get a little bit, they fly off the rails on this one. It's there's a like to like kind of thing where we go, as CIs are related to assets, products are related to service offerings, and service offerings are kind of the tier of like a classification within a business service, right? So let's say that I've got VIP GRC implementation, or like I'm doing platinum level, like the best in class GRC implementation. You have a regular service that you're offering. Wow, yeah. So you have one offering that is underneath the one service, right? But let's say that you've got like budget quick start, right? GRC implementation as a lower priced offering, right? That is less expansive, does less things. What's cool about the just creating the umbrella of the business service, you can say GRC implementations as a service, and it might not always be active, right? Underneath that, you could have an offering of, Phil's, platinum VIP level offering, and it's got its own cost, its own set of expectations, its own, SLAs and such. And then you can have like the lower tier, like Ben's budget version, right, of offering underneath that service. And that's a thing that we're offering. So from just a conceptual level, we think about it in that perspective. Sometimes I even use like parenting analogies here, right? So if you've got kind of a top level service of your parent, like you have the service of parenting that is being consumed by your children, right? And then there's different other sub-services under that, right? There's, taking them to school, or like like almost like ride sharing, right? Or ride hailing when you've got kids that don't drive yet or don't take the subway or what have you. So you have different offerings, and then you offer different components to your kids at different times, right? Based on, what they qualify for, right? So if your kids haven't done their homework and they, are behind in school, or maybe they, didn't do their chores, you're not going to offer them, a ride anywhere that they want, right? But you might still do ride sharing for obligations that they have to do, like take them to soccer practice or something, right? So like the parenting, and then we go ride hailing, and then we go under the different offering levels, right, that you can have.
So,
This gets us into like level of detail, because you might also have rule sets, and this is where we get into the GRC component, like rule sets about like what qualifies at different offering levels, and how you've configured. I use that like that emphasis directly, right? How you've configured those services.
so the thing I'm struggling with here, Ben, is I don't have any real demo data. I think the plugin we talked about earlier was before the show. The plugin that we talked about that I didn't install, maybe that would have given me some demo data in these areas. So some of those scenarios, it's always nice to see the demo data and go, okay, how did the people that built this thing think about that? What was on their mind? And then take your own spin on it. But if we wanted to build something like real quick, I'm conscious of time because I think we're going deep on Csdm, but without any data. It's a non. I don't know how many parts we need to this. It might be like a GRC full flow where I did like 12 different hours. Just started regretting it towards the end.
Well, I want to land this plane too a little bit, and if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, there's so much like detail that we can have.
Yeah, like let's like start with something. Let's crawl here. Let's say, okay, I've got in business applications. Then, like, where's the right place to start here? Business applications are the things that I've got in my business. So if I look at or the ServiceNow's demo data's got, you've got APM, blah blah blah, but you've got something like Workday up here. Workday is quite a nice one. Everyone knows what Workday is. Actually, ServiceNow's there itself.
Workday and Okta and like all the.
So if we said, right, okay, I've got Workday here, and so I don't see. You can actually see I've got some risks against this, but I don't see from this business application my underpinning things. So if somebody raises an incident, this is the bit that I'm trying to work out at the moment. Not at the moment, like for the last little while. What's the best way to kind of get to this data? So when somebody in ServiceNow, in the platform, somebody who works for that customer and says, I've got an issue. They phone up the service desk or they go on the portal and they say, right, something's broken. They might log it against business application, Workday, but previously, or if you're doing a change, you might do it not against the business application. You might do it against the core Cmdb Apple table, right? If we look at an incident, let's just fire up.
So this is where I'm going to say, like, real quick, that this is just this record here is just the perspective of like the business's need or not need, right? And a record of like we use Workday around here, right? We don't host it. You can see that it's an application type of cloud off the shelf or COTS. It is installed on their cloud, right? And it's hosted, as far as we know, on AWS. It's being leveraged by the HR business unit, and there's some other stuff that we can kind of fill in here for context. But we don't manage the underlying stuff in AWS like Workday does it for us. That's what we pay them, right? That's why we license it. However, you can configure and make changes to that app, right, over in the actual configuration that you've stored or that you're talking about, and that can be in another place if you want to map all of that stuff out. But most people, they might not map all of this stuff out, so right?
Maybe Workday, maybe Workday's not the best scenario there. But let's imagine a business application that is important to the business. Okay, so that they say, right, that's one of my crown jewels.
But Workday would be too. Like it's so. What I want to tell you is, I want to make sure that everybody understands that this. Having it there and then not also seeing all of the servers that are underneath it, like that doesn't invalidate it as a useful notion, right? Because there might be Workday, there might be other HR stuff that we want to also have access to, right? So, and somebody might decide, like, I'm going to take Workday out. Like, I'm going to build, like Jeff Bezos was famous for this, right? Like, he was always like, we're going to build everything that we use, we should be building. So if we're using somebody else's product today, make a version that we own, host, support, etc. That's how AWS came to be. So like if you're using Workday today, you can kind of aim to take it out by creating a demand to say, hey, we should have our own version of Workday that's way more cool for us, right? And then that can be put into the Apple table, right?
Okay, so let's just focus on an example of some abstraction. Not too much on the Workday example there, like on the specifics of Workday,
Sure.
the specifics of Workday. But let's imagine that we've got a business application here, Workday. GRC considers that a crown jewel. It's one of the entities and it's scoped, and you can see it's got some risks against it. Okay, so that's great. Now, in the operational side, and I always fall to ITSM because it's so common, and it's something that most people can get their head around. When that comes in, that operational task data might be an incident, might be a change, etc. Could be a service request, right? It could be whatever else is going on, but that's the operational stuff, right? That's the thing that should be following some sort of behavior that we want to control and measure and monitor and make sure that things like changes to our applications, things like incidents on our application, they affect the compliance or the potential for compliance and the risk levels of our business.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
and this is perfect.
This change here is against Workday Enterprise Services, okay, which is a service, not the business application, which is my risk against. So how can I, using what I was imagining is that Query Builder was the magic potion.
The glue. I see what you're saying.
That says, right, okay, I want to run an indicator against my risk, specific risk here. Let's say risk of bad changes. Okay, risk of bad changes impacting on the availability of my application. Right, Workday is the business application, and I don't want to scope my entities against every single component that might be tied to it. Okay, because then we'd have volume beyond our wildest nightmares, and
absolutely
we'll have like so
the
many
900
risks,
attestation problem to one to one owner, right? Where one person gets all of those,
and modeling those risks and the entity hierarchy and etc. All of that stuff is possible if we want to go down that road of like volume and oversight and taking all of those controls and risks through their life cycle. But we don't want to do that. We want to just focus our GRC right now on the core applications at the top and the known risks and controls that we're really caring about to get going. But I've got all this really good data in the platform, and I want to harvest and harness that data for the benefit of understanding my compliance posture. And this is a change that by rights has like an impact. I'm guessing, by the way, I haven't checked the Workday Enterprise Services mapped, but what I know is it's not the Workday that I've got in this tab. Okay, so this Workday is a business application. This
so
configuration
that's
item
part, right?
is a service. So if we created it doesn't matter what that relationship is and necessarily what CSDM says. Let's imagine that our definition of the world is that service has a direct relationship to business application, or let's imagine that this is the thing that should be connected to it. How would I be able to build an indicator against all my changes for my related CIs? So I've got that abstraction of and you know how kind of walking the tree in the Cmdb relationship table, we can have real impact there on performance. We don't want to be doing that a lot and multiple times. Does Query Builder help us here? And how does Query Builder work? How can I use Query Builder to connect the dots and give me something to kind of indicate against?
So Query Builder is what it does in kind of a nutshell is it it performs the function that I used to use like tagging for different things, which was a real pain, right? Where I'd go through and go through all of these different CI tables, and I go this, and this. They're not technically like a service yet, or we haven't mapped those services yet, but I need to be taking a look at these, right? And I own all of these configuration items, right? And there's no other maybe linkages between them, but other than the fact that like they're all stuff that I'm worried about, that I am responsible for, right? Is one of the ways that you can use Query Builder. It's also another way to kind of quick start like a group of CIs as a service before they've been officially mapped in service mapping or some other process, right? But you still need to monitor them. So rather than going through and creating all of these maps from scratch, you can use the Query Builder. In fact, if you go in there now, you can.
So I've got it looks like this looks new to me. It looks like there's some already predefined, but down here is the actual Query Builder, right? This is the module.
Yeah. So when you have APM tables installed, it basically, you know how we do, right? Like depending on who you are or your viewpoint, we might point to the same table or the same set of areas with different views for different people. It's all going basically to the same place.
Okay, so we've got some stuff pre-built here. This looks new to me, and actually the dates on it are quite new. When you see dates like that have come out of the box, although it might say February last year, it's quite possible that only came into my instance like last week or something. So,
Fun fact: a lot of the demo data will sometimes there will be a script that will update the relevant records to be within, X. It'll modify them to be created on or updated in the last X number of days so that they remain relevant. This happens in PA a lot, for instance. But
okay, that's.
I know that's a little bit too much inside baseball, maybe. But.
No, it's not. But I'm stopping myself from going there about.
Don't ask the question; it's tempting.
Duplicate numbers and XML, but.
All right, so pop up the demands on business apps for a minute. This is kind of a good example.
Okay.
So what the Query Builder does is it's actually useful for more than just creating reports or looping in things together that you can tag against. But what it does is it creates like a live query that you can refer back to, because it has itself its own society and all of this stuff that you can leverage in different ways. But at its core, what it really does for folks is provide kind of a drag and drop ability to create report structures that used to require database views, right? And if you've ever had to create a database view, you know that you have to remember your SQL queries, and we do where statements on different things, and you're like trying to remember how to do a join, right? So with the Query Builder, what you can do is you can take any Cmdb CI table, right? Throw it onto the canvas like we've done here, and if you click on Business Applications where it says Starting Node, and you click the little filter above it, you can see if it's been filtered at all. It doesn't look like this one has, and it's basically just bringing everything that's in the business applications.
So we could filter that, say, production ones, for example. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Production.
Critical. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then you can add any other non-Cmdb table or multiple other Cmdb CI tables. But in this case, we've brought over a non-Cmdb table that is referencing the Cmdb. So you can drop that in. It could be demand in this case. It could be incidents. It could be changes, right? And then you can create specific filters here. So if you look at demand, if you just click on demand for a minute, that'll be the secondary node. And then if you look at the filter on this one.
Yes. Okay. So you
do got to click that little filter on the.
Yeah.
Little switch over.
Get used to the UI on this. Okay, that's all. Yeah. Okay. So
this is a
demand.
Yep. So this is a super quick, like this is just looking at all business applications that have active demands. That's it. However, you could.
Based on UCI reference column. So demand table has got this column on it, right?
Yep. So it's like, which are the references that are potentially available to you to run this query would you want to use as your linkage, right? So this is giving me the ability to see all business applications that have been demanded or are potentially the result of demands, right? Or right. So these are ways that we can kind of bring all of these things together. Now for this gives us, again, it's like build versus buy. We could say number of business applications without demands that have X number of users or more, right? And then that can help you make decisions about whether or not we should invest in getting somebody to build it in-house. Or maybe we've got it in-house, but somebody else has a better version out there, and we only have like 12 users, and it's costing us a lot. So, if there's less demand for it, or if it's an application that's not super popular, given its cost, we can make an intelligent decision on what to do with it.
Yeah.
Or
people might be using this, but we're not getting a lot of demand for it.
Right.
That's one we can save some money on and actually find the existing usage solved with a different application. So you can use this scenario here to say, okay, Query Builder helps me bring that data together.
Well, and you probably have already guessed one of the other cool uses that you might be able to tag this with would be all business applications that have a certain level of criticality of controls established against them.
So you're actually using this for reporting your GRC.
Well, and because that report lives, once you've defined the report, the query, and it lives forever, you can call upon that query.
So this is what I want to get to quickly, Ben, and I'm just conscious of time. How are you doing? Have we got a little...
We're good. I'm good. I've got at least 59 minutes before I need for another.
I don't think we should go for the full 2 hours unless we need it. We can. Let's see. Can we build... look at this one quickly, right? So what's the output of this? Where does it... Because my understanding is it builds its own table. Right. I saw it build its own table or something like that. Is that...
Well, it's not necessarily the table. It's the closest analogy I can make is that it's creating a database view for this that is referenceable. So if you go up to run up there, you can... It'll pop up the results of the query.
So this is the problem with indicators at the moment. And there is an idea on the portal... on the community portal for primary key, being able to set a primary key on indicator. Because if I build a beautiful database view that says, oh, this data connects like this, and now plug my indicator against it,
right,
it prefixes the column with the table that it came from, right? You know that? So if, for example, incident would be called inc_sysid. Incident number would be inc_number. And guess what? If my incident had the CI that I wanted on it, which was my entity source, then it would be called inc_configuration_item. And the indicator API just assumes sysid. So when you say it's that field, it's actually looking for the value of sysid.
Right, of the good itself.
And it can't... looking for a field called sysid. And it's not there on a database view. It's prefixed. So it's something like, it's been a little while since I visited that, but that's the kind of the challenge with...
This is why I like the drag and drop, so we don't have to like corkscrew our mind around this one.
So this one here created this u_cmdb_qb_result_sysid. I believe that's 32 characters, isn't it? Is Rainman here? If I look at this one, is that the same one? Query equals 3288. No. Okay, fine.
No, because you've got basically the result view here, and then it's querying then you've got if you look at the list.do system parameter query equals, and then you'll see towards the back there. But so
which is
before we get there,
sorry, I'm digging around. Go on.
Before we even use this for an indicator, we might use this to kind of loop some things around. So if we go back to the query builder for a minute, we've got some saved queries.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. So in here, save queries. Well, that's how we got into this one.
Yep, that's how we got there. So it's kind of a funky little version of the interface here. Longtime users of ServiceNow will recognize that this is a macro page, or a UI page, as it were, because there's a $ in front of the URI. So it's not actually looking at a table. It's taking us to a view, or like a jelly based view. Yeah.
People won't see the URL. It's obscured.
Okay, got it.
It's not obscured. I had to trim it somewhere, and I thought, you know what? You don't need to see the URL and the number of tabs that I might have open at any time. So you've got the full view here.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but yeah, I know what you're saying. That screen is $querybuilder.do.
Yep.
With a capital B.
So now that we've got this query built,
right.
Yeah, we can reference back to it, right? Now there might not be anything in that list now, but what we can do is, well, there's a couple things we can step through some potential uses here, because here's where it gets a little bit. We can go way into the weeds here for a minute. People always ask me, like, so what way how should we build it in the system? And I go, I usually ask the question in return, well, so what do you got? What do you got over there? Like, in terms of monitoring tools or anything?
So can we solve the problem first and then report on it? So business application Workday, I don't have my common, like as a CI, my relationship map here. I don't think it's hiding anywhere. No. So
if you go, I think if you go up, like there should be. Oh, there it is.
Related item. Do you know what it is? It's not populated, so I couldn't see it.
So
I'm used to scrolling a bit further than that. Okay, it is there. Thanks. So
that'll add a relationship.
Yes. So let's add the relationship here to. I don't want to use suggested. You know, you will lose all unsaved work. Yeah. Okay. I know what I'm looking for. I want.
Oh, okay. So
something that looks like Workday, but isn't Workday. It's Workday Enterprise Services. So if I click that and say it's a downstream relationship, yes, downstream relationship. Oh, this is different. Actually, this relationship editor.
It's because we're using the APM version of the editor.
Okay. So. Yeah. Please select a relationship. Because normally you've got to select the relationship before you attach the record. Yeah. Okay, this is nice. So I don't really care what it is, but let's just say it. I don't know. Instantiates.
Well, so here's the thing. Like, here's what I would actually like to know. Is okay, and yeah, Workday Enterprise Services is the service. Okay, beautiful. All right, I was just checking the class because here's the thing. So there should be a. Let's see, how would this work? So we have Workday Enterprise Services. It probably depends on the fact that we've got Workday as a business application, right? So they're like Workday business application will.
I went with instantiate because it was literally that's where my mouse.
We just need a parent child. It doesn't matter what kind for right now for our purposes. Yeah.
So if I look at basically I've got business application and Workday Enterprise Services. I've got a change that is associated with Workday Enterprise Services. I want to check for changes against and it could be my change might have been against a different CI that was also down here mapped. It could be a different one. Yeah, but I've just gone Workday Enterprise Services. I could have AWS in here, and I could have an incident against AWS.
Right.
And then AWS, if you found out that someone cut an undersea cable to, I don't know, whatever, that would be an incident that would knock on and affect my application. That could go on and on. But let's just try and see these two things connected in Query Builder. Is that fair? Where do we start?
So we're gonna basically. So if we're gonna create it, let's create a new one.
So business app to changes. Right. I don't know if we want to go all the way to changes or whether we stop at the CI and allow us to. I don't know what's going to happen here, Ben.
Right, because you might be thinking of it one way, and we might disillusion you of it. So
So I want business application is the class I'm concerned with.
And what are we trying to solve for here? What's our X?
We want to see, so
Just
business
keep me in
application
mind.
here. Business applications workday, that's what I've got my risks against. Okay, you can see down here.
Okay, so
I've got my risks. I want to see
recording the risk.
changes against Workday Enterprise Services. So I want to connect services in here. It's only recommending those, but I don't want to listen to the recommendation. I want to do it my own way. Service here. So do I go? Oh, it's got the actual hierarchy of the Cmdb classes here. That's nice. That's nice.
Well, yeah, it's basically pulling in the CI class manager. I don't know if you use that, but it's like my second home.
I don't.
Like so we'll check it out here in a second. But all right, so you've got basically starting node, and so you don't. Yeah, here you go.
I'm trying to drag and drag, but I can't.
No,
I'll click.
Yeah, there you go. Now you get to choose like what you want the relationship type to be.
Okay, so this is my parents' business application, my service, and first level up to second level. So it knows here. So when I connected like task, the demand stuff, it knew that it was looking for a reference field. So if I looked at incidents, so let's say first level relationships, that's what we've got right now anyway. If I went non-CMDB table when I was looking at change request, does it take table or not? No.
Yeah, just a change should be in there, but yeah, there you go.
It takes label. So if I did it this way and connected this node here to this node there
you go.
Now it's talking about a reference field. But here it's not talking about a reference field. It knows that it's a relationship.
Yep.
Okay, so parent. Okay.
Because they're both CI tables is how it knows, right? They're both CI class tables, so it knows that part.
Yeah, it knows it's.
Now we just got to say like, okay, how are we going to refer to this thing that you're querying? Because there's different ways to refer to, like from change to something in the CMDB, right? There's two different reference fields. In the change table, like there's a reference that says, what service are you touching, right? And then there's another reference field, what specific CI are you messing with?
Yeah, so
that's why there's the two.
The two, and they're both reference CI class, so therefore they're both available. It's the same when you're setting up new dictionary entries and it says, I want to use a choice field on this table. It only gives you those of that class, and the system's smart. It knows what it knows. What is
in the background? It's secretly creating a sys choice record, but yeah, yes, and yes.
So I was going to look at the change quickly, but I've lost my. Oh, here it is. New change request. So I did choose configuration item. I didn't choose service. It could well be that if I save this, that my service might get populated because it is a service.
I'm trying to remember if default, like if baseline service is exposed, right? CMDB, I don't believe it is. It's in the table, but like.
But business app is there. So, and this is part of the problem is that the app is there. So if I keep going to say profiling, if I'm scoping my entities against business apps, the field's there, and that would be the natural choice. Show me all the incidents for my business app. But actually, the incident isn't going to be raised necessarily against the business app, either because the form's not populated, it's not displayed on the form. People just naturally do what they've always done. They don't know about business apps. It's a new field, blah, blah, blah. That is not something we can trust, but we can. And also, the other thing actually is historical data. Yeah, so actually I want to look at stuff over the last year. CSDM has only just started this year, so how can I get this stuff? But CMDB CI is our point here. Why is this showing mandatory? Have I not selected? Find CIs with no relationships to set node, or am I missing? Have I got to tick that?
Let's see what you got here. No. You got parent, business app, child, service one, relationship levels. Yeah, there we go. So if you choose second level, right? Because they're basically. So what it's asking you is, there's a starting node. We're starting in business apps. Like, so what's relevance? What's going to be referenced? Like, if we're going to do our query against change request and look for service, right? So the components, therefore. So if you look at it, it's like running through different strainers. Each subsequent node that you're adding there.
I'm going to save this because I feel
Yeah,
nervous
yeah.
that I've created something and I haven't clicked save yet. So
Well, this is and this is, I think, part of the fun is when sometimes we just have to kind of futz with it and figure it out, because I could explain it 3 different ways, but go ahead and run it now and it'll show you what is resultant.
let me just
If there's anything
let me
that
just
matches
clear
the query.
down. Oh, I just lost my change that I have got open. I'm just going to refresh my nav bar. It's fine. It's fine. I refreshed my nav bar and guess what? It's in my recent history. By the way, I changed my display value on task, messing around one day and never set it back. So, okay, excellent. We've got our query now. This is our query, and it's pulled in our data.
Woo!
Change request 1. Is that showing -5 because the display value? This is funny because you see that change request.
Can't quite see it
It's
here, but
called
let me.
new, even though it's not new. I know I'm in a different tab because state is new, and I bet
Right.
state is
State
-5.
matches. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let me just go and fix this because I did it a while back for no good reason, other than to prove something, and I can't even remember what I was proving. But let's change it back to number. True. Now when I go back in there, and actually shout to Raf because we were doing a little test the other day and there was a dictionary override ability. You can override the display value for an extended as well. So obviously this is a dictionary setting. It is possible to set that differently in dictionary override.
Yeah, because
So it could
every
be
table
hiding.
extension inherits like parent values, and if you don't want to mess with the underlying task table, but you want to change some of the state values for like a child table, yeah, you better do a dictionary override, kids, because otherwise you'll change all of the parent table values as well. So
Yeah, don't make changes on task. Okay, so look at that. Now that is my number, which is more what we'd expect, maybe number or short description, but that's my display value set back. Obviously this is probably, I imagine, is that a snapshot or no?
yeah, it's whenever you call upon it, right? It's gonna output that value. So it's basically like, well, it's literally like you're saving this encapsulated query using a visual interface, right? And not only is it capturing the query, it's capturing all of the views that you put in here. This has been something that like SQL heads have wanted in an easy to do format in the platform for a while.
So how can I access this data? Is this data queryable? Is it, like a database view I can access in a report? Can I access this in a report?
So if you go back to the other tab there,
I think
I
closed it by accident. Is that what you
got
mean?
it. Yeah. So if you go back into Query Builder, you can do a couple things. You can schedule like an output of that to a report and email it to somebody, or you can reference that report in a regular.
So from here, I can say output that stuff. What did I call my?
I think you called it business apps to changes.
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, that one that's right there. So
yep. And if you look up there, you'll see create schedule will be one of the option.
So scheduled email of Query Builder.
But maybe that's not what you want. Maybe
that's
you.
Not what I want. No, I
right.
want to. Let's just check something. Let's rule something out here. Core platform engine reporting, right?
Well, I was actually going to point you in a different direction just to kind of show you how we can leverage that query there. So if you go to Cmdb group.
Yes, Cmdb groups. This
there
one?
You go. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So if you create a new group, this allows you to basically keep tabs on either multiple queried, Query Builder queries, or we'll just get here, but just give it a name here. We'll just call it Phil. Phil Jr.
Phil
changes. I don't know. We just need to give it a name real quick since we're in a rush.
Yeah, no worries. We just had an influx of this. Always happens as we're trying to wind up. We just had an influx of people join. I can see on the stream. So
nice.
Just want to shout out to everyone that's just connected on in the last 5 minutes. Maybe you can play them a sound effect, Ben, and say welcome to the show in some audible fashion or something. That's
We're going to play a game called What is the CI, guys? What's the CI? We're going to try and find out by creating a group query here and making sure that we can report on it. Over to you, Phil.
Okay, anyway, so this is good? So here I can add query, right? I can select my query.
Yep.
And we are talking about business apps changes.
Woo! Yep.
Now, I looked at this before, Cmdb groups, because here, edit manual CI, we can attach them in.
Mm-hmm.
You've got some of this is dynamic and some of it's not dynamic. So actually trying to access this stuff is also in some way problematic, because when you've got
it's onions, it's layers of onions, right? So just show all CIs.
Right, yes, this was it. Okay, so when I click show all CIs, some of that stuff is populated from an M2M table that's hard in there, and then the rest of this stuff is available from the query at runtime, but not available. It's not stored anywhere, so that data there is not available anywhere.
So this is why, like, I'm like, oh, we're gonna get to part 2 where we can, because we're creating the breadcrumbs.
Yeah, let me add in. Sorry, Ben. Let me add in just to show that, and you see it when the page loads. And I've forgotten about this. I just want to grab any CI. Annie, you'll do. I hope she's okay. I'm not sure I should be making MJ references. This one, do I click it, or does that take me somewhere? Am I miss? Is Ben in? Ben's in the way. You're just creating. No, Ben's in the way. Sorry.
Oh yeah. You had the ability to put the plus there to basically. Yeah.
So right, bottom right has been a safe zone. Here, add. Okay, then save and exit, and then Ben can come back down here in the corner. Nobody puts Ben in the corner, right?
That's right.
So this group. Now I've got a manual one. Sorry. And I've got my query here, but when I click show all CI, one of them's loaded straight away. That's on an M2M table, and then these ones are then dynamically probably populated. Right. Yep.
Right, because the dynamic population on any given day is, like, because those items could change, right, based on availability, based on the whatever the queries you've got, right. What the query builder lets you do is kind of create like that snapshot. Now we need to build in a trail, right? This is where you can leverage some of the audit stuff. This will be part 2, because we can use this group setting to run a daily scheduled job to capture the as is state for whatever is showing up in this group.
And is that the same thing that you used to have a baseline on Cmdb when I was actually running or responsible for the platform? And I cared more about the actual Cmdb rather than it being a customer's and wanting it to be good. I had a vested interest in it was like my Cmdb, and I wanted to know the changes for that Cmdb, and there was a baseline, and it used to take a snapshot each day. It was, before PA was so widely available, and it's different to PA. You actually look at it and you can see Cmdb baseline. I'm on the right tracks here, Ben, because my memory's suffering.
Because we call it the health records, right? Because this is where you get into basically one group. Like if you're an operator, right, and you're looking at the Cmdb as your thing that you're responsible for, or some of the components of the Cmdb is the stuff you're responsible for. What do you want to know? Well, you want to know about changes. You want to know if somebody touches any of those configuration items or changes something without letting you know and putting in a change record. You want to know if people are updating those records, or like if people are stashing stuff in your tables, do they meet your requirements, right? Because this happens a lot too, right? You might have a bunch of different stakeholders wanting to put stuff in those tables because that's where they would go, right? For things like a business application, if we have Amnesty Day like we were talking about. They want to stash that information in there, but you go, no, I want baseline minimum. We need to have who asked for this thing, who's using it now, or who's supporting it, who's paying for it, right? Like you can set up requirements, right? So that's one part. That's the one part of the baseline that we can talk about, like, I guess next time now. But there's the other one where we can snapshot, like, basically like a moment in time. for instance, if you have, and this is why it's insanely cool, because it's slightly different than PA. It's like adding another layer that's like PA, but not. And also we can have PA talk to this. You can take a slice in time, right? Because right now you have a group that says, show me Annie, because I'm always worried about Annie, apparently. Annie, are you okay? Are you okay, Annie?
I want to know that Annie's okay.
Yeah. And on any given day, you also want to know, in addition to Annie, any business service or business application that has, I think you put in a change, right? Like an active change request.
Yeah, I didn't put any conditions on it, but you would condition it down, right? You don't want
you
all
condition
changes
it down
forever. You'd say
that would be
changes.
very clear. Yeah. So on today, we can see Annie and any business applications or business services that have like XYZ conditional change, right? And that's the group that I care about today. But I might care about like a different set of CIs that have changes that are active, right, tomorrow. And every day we can take a snapshot of that and then see or create controls against, right? So this is where we can get really cool, because this is where people's like faces start to melt a little bit. And we don't need to get super specific, because what I want to be able to do is give you kind of not prescriptive, but like show you what level of detail that you'll need to get to answer for X, right? Because there's different patterns that I've discovered over, kind of like jokingly discovered, that was no pun intended, that I've realized or come across again and again. I was saying that that's a pattern that we discovered. So we're like
discovery.
Discovery.
I missed it. Yeah.
So what we'll need to do is, and I always say this, and I make it sound like it's like so obvious, but it really isn't. It's like we got to work backwards from what we're looking for, right? So I almost never build up. I build back, like I build down, if that makes sense. Like I'm like, what controls do we want to eventually be able to monitor? Okay, now I know the X that I need to solve for. So let's construct the framework to get there, right? Given the data that we have, right? So if you've got a control that says I want to know about XYZ kinds of changes on XYZ services on any given day, and we're going to sample against them, well, first we need to take that snapshot, and then we can use the indicator as well, right? So there's a couple different layers, and I just saw like your face, and the chat probably is like melting down right now, I'm sure.
No, it's looking good. Actually, I'll shout out James. So James, I don't know how long he's been tuned in, but he's saying this is interesting stuff, and Adil's saying great stuff as well, because I've been talking to Adil about CSDM a little bit. I'm not much of an ability to help on this stuff. I'm certainly not an authority on the topic. So I'm now, my face is going, it's still a dynamic query. We can't really talk to it. So if I just very quickly, how are we doing on time? Let's just one thing. I'll just show the problem here, and I'm talking about indicators within GRC, not indicators within performance analytics. If I just try and fire up an indicator quickly, indicator template, if I try, and I remember that I think I've still got some dodgy stuff going on this instance, thanks to full flow. I've moved things to Flow Designer, and I didn't really test, I just kept going ahead. But let's just see in here, just what are we saying, query builder test. And by the way, if you're using indicators templates more recently from version 11, this target type now is amazing.
Yeah, that's some good stuff.
Really, I built some stuff back 4 years ago, I think, to try and handle percentages, and now it's here. That's great, and out of the box. So this is the supporting data. I can't access U_Q anything. Yeah.
No, so
sorry,
I'm gonna give you the TLDR on here. Like, in order to leverage that, like you think you might want to.
Hold on, it's there. Ben, stop the.
Oh, hey.
Stop the bus. Business app to query changes results.
I was going to tell you.
Go
I
on.
was going to tell you you're going to have to do like an advanced if you used method scripted because
Yeah.
you can call on it scripted, like which is what I've
That
done in the past.
that
But
would
I
be the
like that.
dynamic result, right? That would
Yep.
be like
Yeah, yeah,
run
yeah.
it now. Here's my indicator, run it now, and that's where I was thinking we were
Correct.
going to have to go. We're going to have to script it. There is an API for querying the query builder, getting the results, and then stepping through them using the indicator. But this is, I was not expecting to see this here because when I said
That
to
is
you,
a welcome change.
I was saying that I thought it's created this temporary table, and it kind of does. I know we are going to have to circle back to this at another
So,
time,
ladies
but
and gents, this is another example of driving the car as we build it here, and some of us even at ServiceNow don't always realize that somebody put on a new fender. This is also kind of a cool thing, like where some of us have been pushing this boundary for a minute and asking for this, and it's like, woo, it's there, and I didn't realize that it was. I didn't bother to check demand statuses for some of my suggestions for these. I know I wasn't the only one too.
so I've got there. That's my table. So if I look at this
Beautiful.
table, I can access my entity based on the more complex query that's not being done by the indicator. It's being solved by the query builder, and my indicator technically can access this. But I notice that that's a query results table. So does that create a new table populated every time we run it?
I want to say that like the way this goes is, yeah. So when the query runs, it updates the result, but there's only one result. It's not giving us historical, if I recall
Let me.
correctly here.
So
That's what we're going to use the indicator for.
if I run this again, right? Let's just validate that.
Find out.
Do I get a different table? I mean, your instance is going to get clogged up if it does create a new table every time you run it. I hope it just
No.
repopulates. So when that runs, it sits here silently, and then, or has it updated now? Which one is it? Let's just go up. Let's see updated. We like this one. Updated just now. Okay, so
Yeah.
if I
See,
take that away, I've got every run on here. Yeah, 16 minutes ago was the first one. That's each time it's run. Maybe this has been run, you know, when we were doing the group. When we did the
right.
did the group. But is this my table then? Query 6135. Is that my table that I'm looking at here?
Yeah, this is so.
6135. Go on.
Yep. Yeah. So this. Okay. So this is giving the historical results. That's better than I had remembered.
But that creates another challenge, because now I'm going to see the same change multiple times. Okay, let me just put. I mean, what do you want to do, Ben? This like I've got to it. I've got to my. Great. Okay, I can use Query Builder to handle the complex and kind of predefined nature of my relationships, regardless of my decision. I'll tell you what. Let's. I think.
Well, I was going to say, because one of the things that we could do, and if you think about some of the, well, so there's going to be, and I don't want to muddy the water here, but there can be compliance tasks and remediation tasks that spawn as a result that are triggered correct, like immediately upon satisfying the result of that query. Like if you get anything that matches those scenarios, you can create automatic responses in a similar way to the indicator here. But I'm thinking about who needs to see what, and because the other thing that might be more useful to
the layout.
here,
Sorry, they've changed the layout of indicator. I knew something was different here. They've got basic criteria in here. So
yeah, oh, that's nice actually.
So I can go show. Can I show related?
Let's have some fun with that. Oh, and I like that it. Oh,
so
nice.
I can say in here, change is open, right? Active is true, or something like that.
Yeah. Can you do me a favor? Like, can you right-click on criteria for me? Like, yeah, save and then add the dictionary attribute for me, because this always drives me nuts.
Well, you want the condition builder v2 in there?
Yes, please, and the preview.
Ah, the preview. I forget about this one. So
I mean, when we're building it and trying to test, it's maddening to like have to run the thing without, because we know that we've populated. We just need to know that we are seeing the data that we expect.
okay, let's. So we don't need the query builder condition builder v2 comes with the preview or not? Is it?
It does not. So show underscore condition equals true, comma, no space, and then the other one is condition underscore builder equals v2. I'm glad I can still rattle that off.
It's been a while since I typed it, and you know it should be on my instance already. To be honest, I played around with condition builder v2, thinking, oh wow. I saw it on PA. I said, that's how they're doing v2 builder. Great. Oh, that would be great in indicator. Wow, I can query on related lists. And what I was actually trying to do, I remember having a conversation 3 years ago, nearly 3 years ago with Rob, who I work with and for. And what's the use case? And actually, this is the use case now that we're doing with Query Builder. It's like, yep. I've got a relationship. I don't want to query directly. I want to use related condition queries. But related lists in Condition Builder does not deal with the complex nature of the Cmdb model. So it was a non-starter. But yeah, I got real excited about that.
I can say if you just click update, but it would take you back. But
oh yeah, sorry. Do you know what? I try and use update effectively.
That's better.
So where's my preview?
It won't. Yeah, it won't preview till you get. Oh no! Like, did we show condition count? Maybe we misspelled it. Dang it.
Okay. Do you know what? We've got some stuff in here. I haven't attached it to a risk statement. Let me. We want to. I think wrap it up. I know we said we could go for 2 hours, Ben, but
I was gonna say yeah. I definitely.
We don't want to use all the fuel in the tank, do we? Let's go to this one of these risks. Okay, loss of availability. That's a classic. If I go to loss of availability, get to that risk statement. In fact, I am going a long way around here. Indicator template, risk statements, loss of availability. That's the one I want. That's because I said it's a compliance indicator. I want it to be a risk indicator template. Okay, so even though that moved to a many-to-many relationship, which is another feature that came in version 11, I think, you can't be a risk, or you maybe shouldn't be a risk and a compliance at the same time.
Right, separation of duties.
But you can reuse the same template. You don't have to create the same template. You can use one template to monitor or to define the monitoring for different elements. Okay, so now if we look at that.
That was one of those areas where we secretly replaced the folders crystals, like I think back in Istanbul, to make it so that you could call upon either. But before, I want to say that they were separated like they are now again. But for a hot minute, I think you could go either way.
Look, we've got now an indicator that's going to query our query builder if I've got an active change. I didn't specify the thing that we talked about on that community video. What am I missing, Ben? What did I forget? Use reference field. Excellent. Yep. Yeah, I just skipped over that. It's because the layout's changed, you know. That's my excuse. The layout's changed. So
yeah.
Business
who moved my dish, like my cheese here? Like, can't find it now.
Let me update that, and that should update into basic criteria. Yes, user reference field, business application, content references, execute. Let's just see if we get any results. Well, let's see if we get any supporting data in our results. There's a lot going on in the indicator panel now. I just saw those indicator results showed up and they went away. And bear in mind that, like I said to you, with the GRC full flow project that or series, wasn't really a project, idea, I broke some stuff in my instance.
Sweet.
And I haven't fixed it yet. So we've got a result generated. That's positive.
Yay.
Is there any supporting data in there? Is it meaningful?
Let's find out.
Oh, we got our changes, but it's the same change multiple times.
Change.
Uh, but you know what? We are a step closer here. Let's wrap it.
I was going to say the lesson that we learned was that so the way that we constructed our query can be a little bit different. I think it might be illustrative to maybe I will come with some work prepared as a worked example, and then we can maybe build another one, from whole cloth if we need to. But I'm thinking maybe we just do because I was going to say, like, we got pretty close to what we wanted to do, and I think the level of detail is like you got pretty fine grain there. I like that. But we got to build out a little bit more of the model, I would say, because one of the things that I think we're intuitively trying to do is either take a look at all of the changes against, the pool of things inside what we might consider the service of Workday, regardless of if, like, we're hosting part of it here or part of it's outside, or maybe
Workday's not the best example. Workday's
no, it's a perfect example.
Okay, it's fine. So fine, go on.
Because here's why I like it, because it presents like a difficulty that people are having right now as they kind of go to more and more hyper-converged infrastructure, right? Like 10 years ago, you wouldn't have had Workday somewhere else. Like, you would have installed it on a stack in your data center locally, right? And then you would have been able to do whatever you want. And it would be easy for us to model this stuff, right? Because we could just go discover
the other servers in that other data center, and you'd know exactly where your stuff was. And if that changed, that's your resiliency.
Right, but Workday hosts it for us
right?
in a virtual private cloud over on Amazon, right? And they handle the underpinnings, just like ServiceNow handles the undercarriage of everything that's happening. But you still need to be thinking about, like, the buttons and the dials and the switches that you turn on and off inside the platform in the same way that you would for Workday, right? There's lots of little buttons and gizmos and whiz-bangs to turn on and off depending on what your HR people want. So you still got to store that information, or the notion of that information, somewhere. So this is a really good example that, like, let's keep hammering on it. And I don't want to just give you the worked example, because I also want us to kind of get there naturally a little bit too, right? Like, based on what you're trying to solve for specifically, because I could come at it from like a business process perspective. We could come at it from a purely monitoring and operational perspective. We could come at it, right? So I like where we're going with this. I think it's still valid.
The problem that I saw there, just at the very end, was the thing that is probably a lot of people are going to like, that fact that it's got that historical data on there.
Mm-hmm.
I only want to see the last run of that. Maybe there's a record, maybe there's something on the query builder that says I'm the latest, and you could then say show me only the latest result within that query set. So because I might have had multiple changes, so then I was going to say 5 changes times 5. Yeah,
we needed to filter not just that specific query, but like return result, like the latest one or
the last
updated.
Time it ran. Let me indicate against that. But even so, we've got another tool in the toolbox now for the complexity of the Cmdb, using with or without Csdm, but obviously Csdm is that common model. We can actually simplify that complexity, bring it home a little bit, and then say, what is it that you want? What is it that you care about? And let GRC take responsibility for that, and not try and make GRC solve all of the complexity. GRC is complex enough. The Cmdb is complex enough, and if we try and send GRC around the houses in Cmdb, it's going to get messy. And some customers, obviously, some organisations are going to want to measure their compliance at the fine grain level, right? I don't care.
Go full down to like bullet time, like slow mo, like
I want to see exactly, that server, and that server's compliance and that server's risk rolls up to that server, rolls up to, great. If you're prepared for that, and you're kind of sized for it, that you can handle the amount of activity that's going to create, brilliant. You are going to get so much power from GRC. But a lot of organizations have got, it's a problem. We're trying to automate, we're trying to reduce work. So when we then let GRC go and we don't tame it, we don't kind of put some constraints around it, all that volume can be very scary, and it doesn't allow you to do the crawling and the walking. So I think that was a great thing there, Ben. So thank you for joining me on that journey. And we will try and find another slot to visit, maybe with some. I've made a Blue Peter reference before, and I don't know if that's something. Do you know what Blue Peter is?
No, I don't think you might have to elucidate that one for me.
So you've never heard the expression, "Here's one I made earlier"?
No.
Have you ever built a Tracy Island?
Yeah. Okay.
Like paper mache and stuff, no?
Right. Yeah. Okay.
It might be a British thing, right? You haven't got, a Blue Peter badge.
I love some of the language, like it. I think there was
maybe we'll prepare one early. Here's one I made earlier, and then take it apart or something like that. A bit more preparation. But for something that was like you and I just knocking around, we think there's something in this. I think we got somewhere. We definitely went over the hour slot. The viewership. Thanks, James. I don't know how long James has been involved, but I can see the kind of the stream has gone up and down. So we've had a few peaks and a few troughs. Is there anything to add to the kind of wrap up here, Ben? And I want to know if you've got anything you want to plug, anyone you want to shout out, anything to look out for, and what your favourite features are in Quebec. But just before we do that bit, is there anything to kind of summarise what we covered on tonight's show?
Wow. So I think to land this plane, I would say that once we get our heads wrapped around the notion of sharing a common set of definitions for what constitutes a service at the end of the day, that is incredibly useful for not just GRC, but like a lot of other areas of the platform where we're just like trying to, like we said earlier, just trying to solve for X, right? And that can grow and is expected to change and mature over time. And so, like we were saying earlier, making sure that we don't get too hung up on the fine-grained detail, like at the very start, because we just need to stop the bleeding. We just need to be able to start creating something, right? So being able to at least agree on the terms of what's what and how to think about the relationships between these different terms that's the big takeaway. In terms of plugin stuff, there's some huge stuff in Now Learning related to Csdm, but it is also a big component of another Now Learning course that I think you guys should check out before they start charging for it. It's currently free. The Cmdb Fundamentals course.
So it's free virtual training. Hold on. Is there still a stop on stuff, or it's gone live? I got an email the other day. Quebec Deltas are coming or are now launched. There was a pause on some of the training because of Quebec and everything getting up to date. So is that?
This is on Now Learning. It's all like this one. Yep.
Right. Okay.
It's got a couple simulators. There are specific lessons on how to leverage the query builder that we just talked about, and there's 2 different simulators that are put together that are all rolled into this. And it's a really good kind of foundational series of modules here. So they used to call it, the code name for this was Cmdb 0 to Hero before it got into Now Learning, but now it's just called Cmdb Fundamentals to kind of match our terminology. But it really does take you kind of soup to nuts through the entire like start to finish of the whole kit and caboodle here.
Excellent. Well, I've just shared that link to the chat.
It's a good place to start, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. So your plugin stuff, Now Learning, links.
Got one more.
Oh, you got one more. Excellent. Because when you said plugin stuff, I thought, plugins. what's new in Quebec? But actually, we was plugging
Ah,
stuff, and I forgot that. Yeah, we were plugging.
okay.
No, it's fine. My brain went plugins, and I was connecting to the store. So yeah, so you're plugging. Now learning. Are these your courses? Is there anything that you're doing?
So I do teach them. I do absolutely teach them. That one.
Can we book you, Ben? Can we say, oh, I want a training course, but I want Ben? Is that
You can always ask, and I think in the States I might be the only certified one to teach that class live.
okay?
So, but we're trying to get more people to teach it. So for sure. So if you do end up booking that as a live course, there's a high probability that you'll get me in the States. You'd get Darren Halliday in UK.
I know Darren. Yeah, he did my GRC course.
Oh, excellent. He's good people.
A while back. Yes.
So the other one that I wanted to drop in here, and you can put this, or I guess you can share it in the chat too, is
Yeah.
on the now create side. So this is like the template. So if you're doing a CSDM or CMDB implementation, and you want kind of the
The collateral, right?
yeah, basically all of the stuff that we would say that is like the good process, the best process that we know of currently. So the good common processes involved in doing this work of mapping out your data models, constructing your different CI classes, creating these relationships. So this is the actual, meat and potatoes implementation component too, with all the steps that you might have to take.
So what I'll
it's
do,
a
I've put them in the chat just so we don't lose them.
yep.
But so people don't have to watch the whole thing to get to the links, I'll put them in the description as well, and then they'll be easier for people to access. So that's a great plug. Really really good stuff there. So I'll make sure I click them and take a look as well, because this is
I want to give you all the good stuff, all the info.
all the good stuff. This is not something that I'm like that close to. It's kind of like, I understand CMDB, I understand that, but it's always someone else's responsibility and so on. So actually getting a bit closer to it, I think is
Right. You consume it as part of your work. So it's like, just like an army marches on its stomach, every service in the platform like lives and dies by its CMDB.
we can't solve people's CMDB problems for them every time, and I'd love to. I'd love a CMDB to go in there and it's singing.
It's much sexier than people make it out to be. I promise, guys.
Yeah, no,
It's
absolutely. I think for people that are solving that problem, then this is, you need to know this stuff.
and with that, I got to peace out, man.
It's not copyright, is it?
We got under the 5-second. YouTube's not going to ding you. So
You scared me then. I've just been taken offline. So
oh, did you? Oh my God, no.
no,
Like,
no. When I
oh, no,
heard,
we get a fair use, like real quick clip.
oh,
Like
we
just
better criticise that clip, yeah, to make sure it's what is it? You're allowed to artistic criticism of things is allowed. I don't know what
perhaps one of the finest tracks of Mr. George Michael's career. We'll just say that, right? Like,
So Quebec, Ben, let's wrap it up, because I don't want you playing any more copyright music on my channel in case I get booted. And, I'll never be able to monetize this thing. That's not what it's about. So Quebec, what's your biggest feature?
well, man. So semi-related to Quebec, but like seeing some of the changes to indicator, definitely like huge for me. Like, and that was one that I was only moderately aware of.
That's literally version 12, I think. That's just come out literally last week or something. I went into that room and went, this is a bit different. Have you decorated, or you just moved some stuff around?
It looks nice. It looks good. Yeah, like something's different. So that was a big one. But in terms of like wider stuff, like the fact that having CSDM baseline now in Quebec is a big deal. It's kind of going back to this conversation. Some of the stuff in terms of workspaces in the UI builder are just kind of mind blowing. Some of the improvements to Flow Designer are incredible. If we get a chance to go play around with some Flow Designer stuff later, it just keeps getting better and better. But this, man, there were some major improvements in that space that really impressed me. So, but there's just like, it's so much that like this was a major step forward, like in a future release. I would say there's just like so many good things.
I'll tell you one thing that wasn't on my radar, because the big stuff for UI Builder is obviously, I've done a few sessions on that already. Instant Scan as well, which has been lurking since Orlando, thanks to Mark.
Oh God, Health Scan. Yeah. Oh, I totally forgot. Yeah, that was like the one that's the big one that you can request your own scan. Like, oh my gosh.
Literally, that's a game changer as well. But there's one that's kind of snuck in, and it's not snuck in as much. But when I saw it there, I didn't see it as a game changer. And a couple of people have mentioned it to me as a game changer, and I maybe you want to consider this, mull it over. The natural language understanding search for records. Because maybe I'm so confident or used to the condition builder, I just don't even click it or try it or use it anymore. But I think for customers that are new to ServiceNow, or at least just don't know the tables, etc., that could be a massive game changer there. What's your opinion on it?
Well, so what's funny is, so that's one of those things that internally we've been leveraging for a while, right? Like this is something that CJ showed off on stage at Knowledge like 2 years ago, and we made some. If you look on Crunchbase, you can see that the bigwigs have made some rather significant investments in natural language, specifically because this is like the classic data architecture conundrum, right? Like classifications, like you call it a rubbish bin, I call it a trash can or a garbage pail, right? Like at the end of the day, all the user wants is to just have everything act like like Google, right? I want XYZ. Yeah. My laptop's busted. Like and getting you to the right place is pretty. I think some of us took it, or I was certainly kind of taking it for granted as something that's been in there for a while because I've been using it on our own employee stuff. But seeing it like officially rolled out to the
it's
larger
it's just embedded.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. Yeah. Every list you've got a filter. That's one not to sleep on. But I think with that, Ben, we are in danger of going into the 2-hour mark, and you've got real work to do. I haven't. I've finished work. I've got some real sleep to do. But that's fine. I've really enjoyed having you on the show, so thank you so much. Any final words before we close out?
Well, just that it's been a pleasure, and I really I feel like I don't even I'm not really I guess if you do something you love, you don't really ever work a day, right? Like so this is kind of my jam. I love kind of nerding out about this stuff, and I look forward to building the second part of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for being along for the ride as well, Ben, because as I say, it's been a year of live streaming, and you were kind of involved in the start, and I really appreciate your time tonight and throughout. So
and thank you to chat, guys.
Yeah, thanks for everyone in the chat as well. Good shout. Thanks, Ben. Let's say goodbye to everyone online and wish them well and stay safe. So take care, everyone. Thank you.
All right. Take care, buddy.